Aloha.
Hey man, what's going on?
What are you doing, Slick? Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
All right, cool. It is HPR, All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. Grateful to be welcoming back a fun guest who we've had on the show a few times. Got a new 13th studio album, Slowly But Surely. It's led to them being on tour with some big names you may remember from the 90s and onward. They got a new song. It's so catchy, Freak Accident. The band is Soul Asylum, and singer and guitarist Dave Pirner is back to share some stories, and I'm really stoked to have him on the show too. Dave, welcome back. Aloha, my brother.
Hey Dave, how you doing, man?
I am doing good. Thank you for taking time to join us. And you're still with, and let me make sure I had this right. You're not doing now. It's just Juliana Hatfield 3, but at one point you were opening up with Stone Temple Pilots and the
Yeah.
band live. Yeah.
Yeah, we just finished that tour and went back out on a headlining tour, and we are in Pittsburgh today, I think.
Nice. We dig that. And it's fun for you. This is after the pandemic. How many shows, how many tours have you pulled off since the pandemic?
Oh gosh,
Lots.
a handful, I mean, it kind of, I don't know, a lot. I lost count.
Sure. No, well, that's cool. Then you're back to work, and it's just interesting because we live in Hawaii. We don't get the same volume of tours or anything like that. But and those are some big names. Now, Stone Temple Pilots. Did you have any relationships with any of these groups prior to these packages? Did you ever meet Scott Weiland and that sort of thing?
I did. The Stone Temple Pilots did a gig with us, like at the Roxy in LA, right? I think when they were starting out,
Wow.
and Scott and later on, I hung out with Scott on a few different occasions. The DeLeo brothers are they're the greatest. They're such sweet guys. So they're fun to hang out with, and they sounded great.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's a fun tour.
That's cool. That's a neat thing. Well, he was a famous sort of dude and an enigmatic figure. And you don't have any, I'm assuming you don't have any real remarkable stories with Scott before I move on.
No.
Nothing that comes up, just checking, because sometimes people
Yeah.
have some outrageous stories. Not always X rated or whatever, or inappropriate. Sometimes they're fun, golfing and whatever. In any event, part of what brings you back to us is this record. Now, it's Slowly But Surely. It has all kinds of interesting stuff. Photo of the actual Shirley Muldowney, 84-year-old drag racer from Vermont, First Lady of Drag Racing. But before we get into that, and it also has that great song, Freak Accident. So catchy. Didn't even take more than one listen. I don't know what that says. But I had these other questions just popped into my head that we've been asking people who have new records. And the most important one is, when was the last time, Dave, that you yourself bought a record?
Let me see. Last record I bought was it was compilate. Well, it was they were CDs actually,
That counts. That's a record.
and they have these at the record store I go to. They have these. There are 5 packs of CDs, which is an artist's first 5 records, and they're like $24. So you can get one LP for the same price as 5 CDs. And I'm not saying I'm cheap, but it's pretty cute packaging. And I got a Curtis Mayfield package. I got a Monkeys package. I got a what was the third one? And the guys at the record store, because we were doing an in-store, so I get a discount. And like we knew you were gonna buy those. You always buy those. So they had got a meters packed. They got some really great stuff. And then the CDs had the original artwork on them. And yeah, it's just pretty fun. I screwed up my needle on my turntable. So that's been a bit of a problem. Then I left town. But yeah, I started going, man, there's something wrong with this record, and I need a new needle. I wore it out, I guess.
And the but the CD packages, that was, how recent was that? That was just in the last year?
Yeah, that was less than a month ago.
These are great. Well, people will love that because we ask everybody this, and your answer is so different than like people in like the band America or Peter Frampton or anybody you talk to. They just have such interesting answers, and yours is very unique. The record itself now, why? I guess when I saw it, I dug cars too when I was a kid. I love the muscle cars, and you have on the cover, like I was just saying, Shirley. And seeing how cars are such a cool thing, we all kind of connect to. So many people listening may not even connect to the band, but they may connect to how and why Shirley became inspirational to you.
Well, I think that the what makes her such a huge hero to me is what she took on and the kind of boys club she had to face and the way that here she comes in a pink car and she just kind of does that thing where you have to have a certain amount of audacity and balls.
Chutzpah.
I don't know what the yes, chutzpah, thank you. So it's timely for me, just the coincidence that we have a woman running for president and it's just it's a great thing and she's been so cool as far as letting us use her likeness and she seems awesome. She doesn't drive anymore, but
What was the
yeah.
reaction? Did you interact with her yourself regarding the?
My manager talked to her, and apparently she was very forthcoming and really into it. So hopefully I'll get to meet her.
That's super cool, and that's a nice thing. Now, when you yourself, when it makes me think, when you were a kid, did you ever have a muscle car or anything like that? Any cool cars in your life, or now?
No, I mean, I like to go fast, which is kind of why I don't like driving that much. Uh,
I get you.
yes, I think I was really more into the concept, the design, and the just the I mean, a dragster is like the craziest looking car I've ever seen, and I was just drawn to it. I'm like, why would you
Right.
make it like that?
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
funky looking vehicle on the cover of the record. I should tell people take a look at it in our post for sure. It'll be there. In your record pack, you mentioned some band that has a connection to. You have very interesting connections to some interesting people, and if I have it right, you have at least two people who are who have family members who are big music stars, and at least these two, I think, are associated with New Orleans. So I wanted to start with the son of the famous crooner, soulful New Orleans, Crescent City voice of "Tell It Like It Is," Aaron Neville, your bud Ivan Neville. And tell me, how did you first meet a member of the Neville family? How does one do that?
I met Ivan. I mean, first of all, if you live in New Orleans, you're going to come across some Nevilles and some Marcelluses and some uh yeah, there's music families and it's beautiful. And just when you think you've heard every single one of them, there's another one comes along. Um, but I met Ivan on the Keith Richards tour, where we were opening for Keith Richards, and it was coincidentally right around the time we had made the last record we made with Steve Jordan. Um, and he played in the band for a while. He toured with us for a while. And I started a studio in New Orleans, and it was just he was the go-to guy. So every time I was working on somebody's record and it needed some keys, I'd go, "Let's call Ivan." And he's a beautiful individual. I really really like Ivan. I like hanging out with him, and I love the way he plays. And he did the first unplugged thing with us for MTV, and then we did another one recently where he came and played, and his band opened. And yeah, just he's the best. I
Well,
love Ivan.
he loves you too, and he says nice stuff. He's been on the show several different times actually now. And is there a favorite, even if outrageous, story that can be bleeped or whatever with Ivan that comes to mind during that amazing time when you actually guys were out opening for Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones? I think it was the Main Offender tour. I can't remember which one he was
Yeah,
on.
I mean, there was a lot of funny kind of nights where things got kind of crazy. I mean, everyone was still pretty, everyone was partying. But I just went to Jazz Fest this year, and it was hilarious to me. And I went from stage to stage, and I'd go, so the Stones, and then I see Neil Young, and then I see Bonnie Raitt, and then I see Trombone Shorty, and then and it seemed like every single band I watched, it was like, ladies and gentlemen, we got a special guest, Ivan Neville. He was on every and with everybody. It was so funny. It was really cool.
I dig that. That's very cool. That's a great story right there. And have you ever? It lends itself. I was always questioning because I knew about he was in the band and stuff. Have you ever? Did he ever introduce you to his pop? And have you ever like hung with his dad, Aaron?
No, I never met Aaron.
Wow. Wow.
That's I met some of the other Nevilles though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But never met him. And it was Art who had who had the meters,
But
correct?
Art actually was one of the first people in New Orleans that kind of he was really nice to me. And I had just sort of decided to go to New Orleans and just, no return ticket, see what happened. Going to sleep on people's couches. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to try to get a feel for it. And my intention was to move there, which I did do. But I ran into Art at Tipitina's,
Nice.
and he couldn't have been kinder to me. And I'm just like, hey man, I'm moving here, and he gave me his phone number. I was a total stranger to him, so I think that was a big, you know, thing that kept me going. I gotta live here. This is so cool. I can meet, or I can listen to people play music that are open to me. It's like, what do you want? Yeah, man, give me a call. What do you want to know about? You know?
I love that.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, well, that's Ivan's uncle, and yeah, he's told us incredible stories about growing up and what it was like in the early days and the side jobs that folks would have to do to make it, and just it was incredible. But then, of course, from Ivan, we go to that other stud that I think, and I hope I don't have it wrong, but I thought the last time that we talked that he lived in New Orleans. Young Eli, also known as Dave Pirner's son, sometimes called Elijah. What's up with him?
Uh, well,
Do I have the city right?
huh?
Do I have the city right? It's New Orleans.
He's born and raised in New Orleans. He's now in Chicago
Okay.
and at the school at the Institute of Art of Chicago, and he's doing all kinds of cool stuff. Like he showed me a pair of shoes he made, like leather shoes that were sewn, and I was like, hey man, everybody needs shoes, that's pretty cool. You wonder what kids do in art and design school, and he's actually doing some pretty tangible things. I don't know exactly where he's gonna end up going, but I was very impressed with the shoes. And there's this song called Liza Jane in New Orleans, and his name is Elijah Ray after his grandpa. And every time that song came up during Mardi Gras or wherever Jazz Fest or whatever, I'd just sing, "Oh, Elijah, Elijah Ray." And I don't know when he found out that song was not his name, but maybe he still doesn't know. But
I love it. That's super cool. And yeah, so you do have two. See, so I was right. Two cats with rock star people in their lives. Does he listen to Soul Asylum at all?
he recently uh, took a picture of my solo record and said, I come back to this one a lot. which is interesting because that was the very beginning of me living in New Orleans.
Mm.
Uh, but this record, he helped me with like design stuff.
Wow.
So we went back and forth with he designed some of the T-shirts that are available at the show tonight. And, I think he's probably overexposed to it in a way.
Sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
he was not like I want to be in a band kind of oddly as poetic justice would have it or whatever. I mean, I would have been thrilled if he
Took up the
got
mantle
it
of music.
music, but also I can't really recommend making music for a living to anyone.
Right. It's
I
gonna say.
think he kind of rebelled a little bit in his own direction, and I think that's healthy. So yeah, I don't know. He's a hip hop kid as far
Right.
as most of what I've heard. The other not that long ago, I was talking to him, and he goes, "Yeah, I've been listening to a little metal lately." Like he said, metal. Like, metal. Yeah, but I don't know.
Did he
He's
name the
exploring.
bands? Was it like Sabbath, the real McCoy, or was it?
Yes and no. I couldn't really figure out if he was into the real new kind of stuff I said, what, like Mayhem? And he's like, yeah, Mayhem's pretty cool. So, I think probably it's pretty dark and extreme, whatever he's into. Everyone comes around to Sabbath eventually, though.
You got to exactly. Hello. What can you say about that? That's a an animal all to itself. Speaking of, before I let you go, we've been having so much fun sometimes with cats doing this concert poster flashback story thing. Where not necessarily about that show, but sometimes they have stories about like having been on tour with so and so, and sometimes I was just looking at your thing and I realized I'd never done that. And I not that you necessarily have a story about any of these cats. But in Soul Asylum's history, you've done some really remarkable gigs, and these are just a handful of them. I'm just curious. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, September '95. Didn't you get to perform with Lou Reed and Iggy Pop?
I did indeed.
Is that like,
That
ah,
was a thrill. I mean, they called me and said, "Do you want to play at this groundbreaking ceremony with a couple other people?" And they were throwing around a couple names, and I mean, I love Creedence. One of the names they mentioned was John Fogerty, who I'm a
wow,
huge. But my brain just immediately went from where I'm coming from. I need to be with the underdogs, kind of. So I just went. I want to play with Iggy Pop and Lou Reed, and I just threw it out there, and they were like, "Okay."
no,
I was I was stunned. Um, but yeah, it was really fun just hanging out with these two guys. At one point or another, they were telling me to not mix beer and wine, and I was like, "Wait a minute, who am I talking to here?"
which one said that?
Well, they both kind of were looking at me while we were having dinner, going, and I'm like, "Why am I getting this from these two dudes? Aren't they?" Sort of, authorities on well, I don't know. They're probably uh, very healthy people or were.
Right, in one
I
case.
don't know. It was just funny getting it, like having some consenting elders tell me to not mix
Hey,
beer and wine.
you got to take advice when it's coming from Lou Reed and Iggy Pop. That's just a great story, though. So, man, you guys were literally that paints a picture of how on top of the world that you were. You say that to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they just cough it up. Imagine if you had been like, I don't know, how about Ozzy and Tony from Sabbath? I wonder if they could have done that for you. But because
Yeah.
it's just crazy. You do have another one with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I wonder if this has an equal cool story because we had it's January '94 Waldorf Astoria, and you induct the Animals into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Did you pick
And
that? Is that the same story of how it happened, or
no, they just sort of, they just asked me to do it, and I was like, I love the animals, sure, why not? And yeah, I remember very distinctly writing out my speech and trying to figure out, going back and listening to a lot of animal stuff and trying to figure out what my angle was going to be.
That's cool. That's a
Yeah,
great
it
gift. What's that?
was very, those early Rock and Roll Hall of Fame things were very, icon studded. I'm saying, hey, Al Green, hey, Johnny Cash, hey, really. So I think I came off, I either as I was going on stage to do the thing or coming off, Elton John was sitting there and he had a song with Eric Clapton called Runaway Train. And I looked at him and I went, hey, me and you got a song with the same title. And he goes, yours is much better.
Oh.
From Elton John, that felt pretty good. And then after I inducted him, the guys from the band thanked me and were touched by my words. So I guess I did okay.
You know what's so cool is we're going out with that tune. So you set it up in the most remarkable way because I'm going to have featured, we feature Freak Accident in the intro to your bit. Again, it's the new 13th studio album, Slowly But Surely. And so many cool stories from Soul Asylum's Dave Pirner today. And had to go out with that jam, and there we go. What a setup for it. You have fun today? Was this okay?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Just getting ready for the show. Juliana Hatfield is great. It's a good co-bill, I think, or good bill.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
remember her from the Boston days at WBCN. That was a big.
yeah, yeah,
I remember when you
yeah.
did your BCN free midday show. I was going skiing that day, and I listened to the broadcast on the way as we drove out of Boston. And you were playing at like noon at the Middle East downstairs. I wonder if you can even remember that show.
I do remember that. Because of Juliana, I remember that. She was like there or around or
Yeah,
something. It might have been where I met her.
yeah, and there,
Um,
that's cool.
but yeah,
And she's still
go
opening
ahead.
up. She's opening up on this tour, the Juliana Hatfield 3, opening up for Soul Asylum. Well, eventually you got to come back out. I know you haven't even been here, right? This is your last state.
Something is wrong with that.
You got to fix it. What if somebody said to you, if we pay all the expenses to get the band out there to do a benefit for Maui after this devastating fire we had in Lahaina last year, if someone made that offer, would you take it to come do a gig that they could harness to make benefit money on?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh yeah,
You sure?
yeah,
Can I put that on the radio? I don't have to.
yeah.
Okay. I'll put it out there. We'll see if somebody will make it. And then you can have played Hawaii and we can try to do more good for so many people who could use a break
Right.
over there.
That's what we do.
Say again, brother?
I said that's what we do. That's what we try to do.
Yeah, you do it all the time. I've noticed. So I figured, why not throw it out there? You have a good time. Enjoy your tour, and we'll hopefully get you out here one day. But stay safe. Great having you back on the show again, Dave.
I appreciate your time, Dave. You take care.
You too. Aloha, brother.